Hey, everybody, welcome to a special summertime episode of the Athletic NBA Show. I'm Mike Vorkanoff, here with a special guest today. You may know him as a co host of the Point Forward podcast. You may know him as co founder of the Beyond the Big Ten podcasts. You may know him from his time in the NBA or at Ohio State. I'm just going to call you Evan Turner. Just keep it real short, 2 words. Evan, how are you doing? What's going on?
Man, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Blessed to be here. How about yourself?
you know, summertime, just trying to get away a little bit. Hopefully, this is some vacation listening for the listeners out there.
Yeah, it'd be huge right now. I can't wait to hit vacation myself. I hit vacation. It seems like every summer I miss out on working out and getting my summer body. So I'm saving it for Labor Day.
I've never had a summer body, so this is just like I'm just
It's over.
every year for me. Yeah,
It's overrated for sure.
yeah. And now at the age I'm at, I'm washed. It's over for you. I'm never getting abs. Come on, let's get out of here.
I can only get like a 4 pack. The bottom two is like where all the beer and burgers hide.
4 pack. I'll settle for a single. What are we doing? Uh, Evan, man, I want to have you on for a number of reasons. Look, it's mid late August, but for some reason, like there's always something going on, whether it's college sports, the NBA is always on fire for some reason. Someone's requesting a trade or whatever. And also, I want to talk to you about, the Beyond the Big Ten podcast that you guys have going on. This is year 2 coming up. And so we'll get to all of that. But since college football season's coming up, since college football realignment for some reason continues to keep going, and now the Big Ten has added like 15 new schools since the last time I looked. I want to get into the Big Ten with you first, and you are the co-founder of the Beyond the Big Ten podcast, right?
Correct.
Can you give me a little background on that and just how this thing came together and just what it is?
To be honest with you, it started when a little bit after we did the Point Forward, and we started a production company called New Amendment. And I always knew I kind of wanted to cook up and expand and give a voice to my peers. And I think new media was really cracking up to be something that allowed us to do so. So I basically tapped into my database, and a lot of guys that I played with in college, which were some pretty great players. I was fortunate enough to always have a pretty good relationship with them. So when it came up to this idea of taking former great athletes and having them cover a podcast that, is involved with their alma mater, I thought it'd be a win-win, especially something that would fit like a regional niche. And one of the first group of people I hit up were my former Buckeye buddies. So Jared Sullinger, Aaron Kraft, David Lighty, Adam Jardy, he's a beat writer, as well as, Aaron Kraft is Ohio State legend, Jared Sullinger, along with, David Lighty. And from there, we were able to replicate the same formula amongst a lot of Big Ten schools. And we just finished off our first season this past year where we had a lot of success. We had 5 of our 11 pods, consistently in the top 100. And recently we just signed a deal with the Big Ten to be under the Big Ten umbrella and continue to push our content forward. Starting in September, we'll be following up with Beyond the Big Ten football. So we have a lot of great former names that you might know about. We'll have James White, former Patriot great, and Wisconsin Badger covering the Badger Pod. We have guys like Jake Stoneburner, Veer Posey covering the Ohio State football, and Shane Wing covering Indiana. So we'll have a lot of cool guys and blast from the past, but they'll be starting their media career and voicing their opinions on the season. I think something that the fans will really appreciate, especially in the regional markets.
So that's how you know the difference between you and me is that you went to Ohio State, so you call it the Ohio State. I went to
Yeah,
a
yeah.
different Big Ten school, so there's no chance I'm calling it the Ohio
Where'd you
State.
go?
I went to Rutgers, which wasn't even a Big Ten school at
Yeah,
the
I'm going to
time.
say it's not even a Big Ten school.
Bring
Basically.
back the old Big East. Give me the old Big East, please.
Yeah, so what's so crazy is the old Big East, which I was a big fan of in college, is basically turned out to be what the Big Ten is, with multiple schools. But I think the talent and the powerhouse behind it is something that's worth documenting. And I think in this day and age, a lot of fans not only want, you know, experience to be a requisite, but now it's like a requirement. And I think that's where, beyond the Big Ten, fares the best in its upcoming climate. And I think with our team and, with the new Big Ten deal and licenses and backing, I think we're just at the beginning where we can make a splash and continue to make this a cultural thing.
So yeah, I mean that's the thing I want to know is like you played at Ohio State, so like it's been in the same conference the whole time, right? It's been in the
Yeah.
Big Ten for like 300 years or whatever. But there's a lot of schools and a lot of the players who are co-hosting podcasts for you on the Big Ten podcast, like they were when they were at their school, it might not have been in the same conference. Does it matter to you? Does it matter to you guys like what the conferences are for your alma maters?
No, I don't think so because when it comes down to it, this is really geared towards the athlete and giving the athlete a voice. So a lot of times when you talk to some of these athletes, they're like, "Yo, I just want to break into this and then try to figure out a way to, continue to keep up, the reputation of my school and voice my love for it." So I think when you relate in that sense, and I'm big on athletes supporting athletes. It's easy to do. So, like I said, with Rutgers, we were able to have Austin Johnson, even Geo Baker covered a basketball pod, and for football, we'll be able to get, Dorian Miller and Julian, Pennis, Julian Wright on it. So we'll be able to get some of those guys going. But it matters nothing besides the content and being able to drive that fan base and all that traffic to us to really build something dope.
And I'm sure you're already scouting UCLA guys, USC
Yeah,
guys,
yeah,
Oregon
yeah.
guys, Washington
Yeah,
guys.
we have I already have a couple of OKs and yes, sir, is where it's coming from it. So we have some commitments that's going to be pretty fun. So like I said, I played with Isaiah Thomas back in the day. The UW great. I was able to play with Spencer Hawes. I'm gonna have to beg, the Peyton Pritchards of the world to try to do, Oregon. I'm gonna have to burn a face card to try to do, Drew Holiday and so on and so forth. But I think one thing that occurs is the same way that this originated by using my database and my connections is the same way that I think it's going to keep flourishing. Word of mouth and continuing to stand together and continue to try to push that athlete's voice. I think that's one big thing in a narrative that we all been trying to do in the past few years, and this is really going to catapult it.
So I mean, like, look, you have a podcast, you co-host one with Andre Iguodala, right? So like, I feel like the NBA has more guys who have podcasts than any other pro sports league. Why is that? Why is this such like a natural medium to NBA players?
I think for one, we have a lot of time on our hands, that's for sure. Okay. I think for two, it's a unique thing. We went from having, barbershop conversation or text message conversation to being able to put all this on wax and then kind of get our voice out. I know it might be fun to, to beat a puncher, but it's never fun to get punched. So I think we're kind of switching roles of being like, yo, this is what we don't like, this is what we like. And a lot of people, I think it's kind of free therapy and really, control your narrative. I think that's one of the biggest things that we haven't been able to do, free-handedly. And at this moment, the floodgates are open to do so.
What's the therapeutic nature of it? What's that for you?
Sometimes, to me, just getting on wax and kind of saying what I want. You know what I mean? I mean, in the most respectful way, in a sense. But you know how many times you'll be listening to Sports Center, and even when I used to be in the locker room and hearing some type of narrative that was the furthest thing from the truth. And then when you sit there, you're like, that's kind of crazy. How did they get that completely wrong? But then you add up, it's like, all right, what was their background? Were they into basketball? Were they into soccer? And rent is due on the first. And he just said, you know what, man? This is what I think. And I think one thing that really dwelled from it was my time in Philly and dealing with the Philadelphia media and everything was like, yo, one day I want to get back and kind of say my own opinion, talk about my own narrative, but also too, humanize these athletes. There's a lot of people sometimes that write so much and it means nothing to, tear down an athlete or, get something wrong. There's no penalty on writing one bad thing. Like I always say this, Bob Knight says journalism is one step above prostitution. So you know what I mean? So I'm trying to get my little change.
Listen, man, I'm gonna disagree with Bob Knight on that one. I also
He's gonna choke
I think Bob Knight's gotten a lot wrong. I think that's one of them.
Yeah.
But like, there's people who do this well. There's people who do this poorly for sure. But like in Philly, did you feel like you were not
Yeah. No,
humanized? Did you
terrible.
feel like you were not
No,
treated well?
I think in Philly, and it has nothing to do with negative, but that's the prime example. You know how many times I would sit here and read an article and be like, yo, this is completely wrong. They're ruining people's reputation. They're destroying people's reputation. And some idiot, like literally that's just making up whatever. And I thought that was just one thing that really drew me to finding my voice because when I sat back and didn't use it as much is when, you know, a picture is painted of me that wasn't true. And I think as athletes, as people that rely on, you know, reputation, I think that's everything.
I find it interesting because like now, if you have a problem with something that was written that you thought is not true, right? You can go to Twitter. If you're in the NBA, you can go to Twitter. You can maybe have your own podcast. Like there's a lot of mediums
Yeah.
to disagree with whatever is out there about you, right? If you choose to go that route.
Yeah.
What would you do early in your career when Twitter is not as big, when you didn't have as many outlets? Like, obviously, it seems like there's a lot of things that maybe angered you a little bit about the way you were covered. Like, what would you do to try to correct the record or at least let your, unhappiness with the coverage get out?
I mean, I think I would have did something along these lines. I think I would have kind of had my own pod. I think maybe I would have, you know, kind of addressed situations far more than hoping it just boiled over. You know, I just, to a certain extent, would always just assume things would work out the best or people would get it right. And and clearly in that personal situation, they rarely did. And I think as an individual, I would, you know, for sure be able, you know, be more intentional with what I wanted to put out there and, you know, say no comment on most conversations and somewhat, you know, with certain individuals, just turn down interviews. Because at the end of the day, when it's coming down to journalism, I'm not going to tell you what to write or anything, but you guys all have a journalistic integrity to uphold. And a lot of times it doesn't get upheld. And this is coming from somebody who's often been written on. And when you come down to it, and the result of it is it's just a shrug or a laugh or like, oh, okay. Or the audacity to make people think that you will know more than what the player's talking about. And I don't know where that came from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. One of the things I've always, so I covered the Knicks for a number of years and now I cover the league. And one of the things I always found interesting is I do understand when players or coaches say, okay, how are you writing about us? How are you criticizing us if you don't have all the information available, right? I'm not in there in film room with you. I'm not in there in team meetings with you. But then I also find it kind of hypocritical when they don't give up any information to help you understand the game more. How do you bridge that gap to help make sure that people more fairly covered, but it's got to be a give and take, right?
Yeah, I think it's got to be a give and take, but at the same time, when we're speaking on it, you got to take out the intangibles. Like, I mean, like the outliers. The season's so quick. Eyes are like when it's coming down to information, you have to keep a lot of that information super tight because at the end of the day, you know, whatever is coming down to game plan or anything, that definitely affects something. But I think, but I think there's just a fine line just taking what they do give you and writing that. That's it. Like
Okay.
you're asking me how to make like pepperoni pizza, I'm gonna tell you go get dough, tomato sauce, cheese, and pepperoni. That's it. Don't reinvent the wheel. And this is how pineapple pizza comes about and all that other bullshit. You understand what I'm saying? It's as simple as being like, when we talk about athletes being egotistical, humility, or whatever else, it's as simple as being like, yo, you know what? This is what the coach told me. I'm going to go back and write something pretty good based off what they told me. Not draw up and go dive deep into tweets or into things that could be taken 100 different ways on a sport or topic that most people don't know about that cover the NBA because they only play it to a certain extent, and then come out with a big article that touches millions of people. Does that sound right?
Yeah. So like you were, I understand what you're saying. So
I just want to make sure that sounds right because like literally all you have to do is listen to the coach and what they give you and just report it. Don't make up no other shit. Just report it. And then we go back to your editor, you tell them, yo, this is what he gave me. And this is what seems like the truth. And considering the fact I'd never hooped or played in the NBA and there's so much stuff I've never done, it might not make sense for me to come up and piece by piece an article. And that's not for you, that's just for anybody because you want to come to me and ask finance, would you? Even though I pay 1% in taxes, correct? And I have a
understand.
CPA and I have all this other stuff. It's just simple life. Only in the sports world do we not have to follow the rules? And then like you get trumped by somebody that's never played the sport and telling you what it is, and then you have to deal with the outlash of what they think in regards to the sport you played your whole life. I don't understand how that recipe is okay, but good thing they're not giving jail time for it. And you feel where I'm coming from? I just want to make sure.
I understand. I understand
Yeah,
what you're
yeah,
saying. You feel like
yeah.
it should only be written about what's in front of you, right? Like what the coach is telling you, what the players are telling you, not. I mean, part of the job is to kind of write about what you see too, right? It's
Mhm.
observational as much as it is reporting too.
Yeah, but I think a lot of times, and I think it's observational, but I think it's also relatability. And I think there's a lot of outliers that come in that you might be writing about it, and there's stuff about you that I'll never comprehend or understand. And that's coming from not understanding your background. That's coming from not being, what you're able to do, or even just talking about going to journalism school or whatever it is. So when it comes down to me putting that out, it's not okay if I miss a little bit or I miss a lot of it. Like it has to be accurate. And I think that's what athletes and players would appreciate most, because at the end of the day, we're oftentimes based on the accuracy of what we do. So when it's not replicated towards us, we sometimes grow, irritable.
Oh no, listen, I agree with you. Like
Yeah.
if you're writing something that's not accurate, that's a problem, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
number one thing. You got to be right about the facts that are in the story. And
Mm-hmm.
like, do you feel like the way that you were covered affected you down the line in the NBA, affected where you went, or affected the contracts that you got later on down the line? Because you said the reputation matters so much in the league to players. Did you feel like that had an effect on the rest of your career?
Yeah, I think as a teammate, probably, or like perception. You know what I mean? I think one thing that occurred sometimes, when coaches would meet me, they would either say, "Oh, I didn't realize you're this good," or like sometimes like, "Oh, you're a great teammate," or "You're willing to do this and the third." Sometimes reputation coming on you was up and down, much more than just me not feeling like dealing with a writer who already wrote some ignorance and continues to write some ignorance. And you know what I mean? I just went from just being like super, you know, I just started taking media just with a grain of salt. And I think if you see once I left Philadelphia and just seeing how much I opened my personality, and just being like, you know what, I'm gonna use media how I want to use media, and just find fun in it.
And this all affected, do you think this had an impact on you on why you want to get into podcasts and why you want to start your own media network, about being able to come at it from your own perspective?
Yeah, no, I most definitely think so. And I think, with myself and Andre, we're able to really voice our opinions on what we think, and when and when an athlete thinks, and I think that's a real point of view, and to give other athletes the opportunity to do so. So I think the athlete point and adding on more and more shows, and giving more leeway to that conversation is going to be huge, and I think it'll definitely continue to affect the narrative of how the athlete is viewed.
So, what have you enjoyed the most about podcasting so far, and anything surprise you kind of just about this line of work?
Uh, I think one thing that I've enjoyed is just our guests and who we interview. I think when it comes down to folks and their successes, it all starts in the same standpoint of realizing a goal, realizing a journey, and kind of overcoming the steeps and valleys. And I think those stories are what's been most fun and been most inspiring, but I think also been most relatable, because with Point Forward Pod, we're a basketball pod, but we like to consider ourselves something on a broader spectrum. So we don't only, grab basketball players, but we'll grab Robert Smith, who's the owner of Vista, or we'll have Rick Rubin, who was a Def Jam, music genius, or we'll be able to have, Danielle Slayton, the owner of FC Bay. And you hear a lot of those stories and everything. And I think it really, humanizes not only athletes, but great human beings, quote unquote. And I think that's what makes the content even doper.
So, like, what's your perspective on what's going on in Philly with James Harden, right? Like, as someone who's both been covered and now in the media, right? And I'm serious. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Like, you were in Philadelphia, right? You went through that whole cycle. You're seeing it go now with someone else. Like, what's your perspective on what's going on in Philly with Harden and Morey and all that?
Man, Philly's all, I feel like it's not normal. Philly's not normal unless it's like a shit show out there, right? And that's just the truth. Like when you literally argue them, I'm like, bro, what happened? I think there's I think there's a lot to be, you know, a lot to be discovered in that situation. There's a lot of he say, she say, and James isn't mad for no reason. And I think what's going to be tough is what is done in the dark is going to come to light, and and somebody's I don't even know somebody's going to have to somebody's leaving. That's for sure. What do you think?
I mean, listen, I don't remember the last time a player, any player, no matter how good they are, went out and called their general manager a liar publicly. Like
I mean, yeah,
those are stark terms.
yeah, but you know how many times the general manager lies?
I didn't say that the GM
no,
doesn't
I
lie.
no, I dig you, but like when we sit here, we use this situation like this is it's terrible, but like this is big time media or big time news, and it's like, bro, this isn't the first time a GM lied. A GM
Have you been
lied to
lied to?
numerous times. So like when you sit there and you talk about it, it's just like, but I don't have any leeway to throw my weight around. You know what I
What's
mean?
the bit? What's like the worst time you got lied to by a GM during your career?
Let me see. Nah, I can't tell. That one's bad. Let me tell you.
You're doing the mental calculus right
No,
now.
because I'm trying to do the mental calculus. Because at the same time, I don't want to shit on anybody because they got families. You know what I mean? It's just a dumbass game of basketball. You
I understand. I understand.
know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to. I mean,
But
it wasn't anything bad, but where sometimes I don't know. Let's just leave it at James. How about
okay.
that? Let's just leave it at James.
I find it fascinating because usually when a player has asked out of a trade, right, out of an organization in recent years, the public sentiment has mostly been moving towards the players now, right? Everyone kind of understands you should have the freedom of movement, right? You should have the
Yeah, yeah,
opportunity to work where you want to work, right? Like
yeah.
that's
I mean, everybody gets to do it. Yeah,
right. That's what I'm saying. But this one seems to be different. This one seems to be trickier. And I think like the public sentiment isn't going the way that it normally has in past years with James and with Philadelphia for whatever reason.
yeah. I think, like I said, man, sometimes it's about who puts out the story first, right? At the end of the day. So I think what James was able to do in China, I guess, someone helped the spotlight and was able to point the finger, as opposed to him going up against some crazy narrative historically that, as you can see, the Sixers organization has had. They, even with the what's my man's name with the fake burner account from back in the day. What was that GM?
Brian Colangelo, yeah.
Yeah, Brian Colangelo, and I think man, that's crazy, bro. That's
The burner
even
account?
the burner account, but just even with James, I mean, you compare it to the time when we went through the lockout in 2012, and somehow all the fans were mad at the millionaires, and the millionaires were the bad guys, and the billionaires were the good guys. You know what I'm saying? So like,
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy to see you fast forward over 10 years later, and somewhat, the organization is kind of taking the responsibility for the flock. That's very rare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's been one of the biggest changes in just sports in general over the last like decade or so,
Yeah,
is that whenever there was a labor problem or labor stoppage, people just like kind of intuitively went on the side of the ownership, right? Of the league, of the
yeah,
billionaires, as you said, instead of the players who are the employees, right? That's what it is. And it's like,
yeah.
and it never made any sense to me. And it seems like that's kind of changing now. It's now more of a pro labor for the most part point of view, unless you're like the diehard fan of that one team and then you're just blinded by the laundry.
Yeah, but I feel like that's more so like some Pittsburgh Steelers type shit. You know what I mean? Like, like people are legit are like, I don't care what it means, like Patriots type, diehard type situation. But I don't know, from a journalistic standpoint, how do you view it? You have history in this, and like, how crazy does it look? The James Harden situation and Philadelphia and all that occurring just probably like a month and a half out from the season.
I mean, you're trying to get an understanding of what led to all this, right? Like, why did he opt in if he wanted to get out? why is he calling him a liar, right? And then you put into context, like, look, Daryl Morey is known to be one of the harder GMs to deal with in the NBA. Like, that's not a secret.
Yeah,
He's hard to negotiate with. And then also James is now, this is his third trade request in like 3 or 4 years, right? So that's why I'm
yeah,
saying this is like more complicated than like the
yeah.
Dame Lillard situation, which just seems like Dame did as much as he could for Portland for as long as he could, and he reached the tipping point. It's like, just,
Yeah.
it's
But
understandable why he wants to go somewhere.
yeah, and I think also too, you gotta take, if you want to do journalistic stuff and piece by piece stuff. This is where I'll make the error of doing, trying to be a journalist. But you gotta look at their history as well. It's always been some type of weird turmoil in the camps of Daryl Morey, compared to like a Dame Lillard. Like some people are able to thrive in chaos,
Mm-hmm.
and we can overread this or whatnot, but a lot of times there's always some type of smoke being, brought from that area. And
We just saw this with Daryl a few years ago during the whole Ben Simmons things, for sure.
during the whole Ben Simmons things to that, the Chinese situation, a situation in China,
The tweet that caused
yeah,
the
the
issue in
tweet
China,
that
yeah.
occurred, and then obviously, the overcoming of, certain things in Houston. So, clearly people have different ways of doing business, and and the slap on the wrist doesn't really hurt as opposed to, the knockout punch. And
So
I
how,
think
no, I was gonna say, so like, you and Andre, obviously the Point Forward podcast
yeah.
talks about a number of things, but the Beyond the Big Ten stuff is just college. Do you guys talk about college sports and college athletics in a different way than you do about the NBA?
We talk about the exact same way. I think one thing when you discuss college sports is you don't really worry so much about the players, more so than how they get treated. And we discuss them getting their equal pay, their rightful pay. And a lot of times we're trying to discuss what makes sense in that sense. I remember Dre brought up something where it's like this history was this country is built off free labor in that sense. When it's coming down to like college sports, you're somewhat correlated. And I guess one thing that is occurring is the kids are able to get money from the NIL, but there's a lot more money to be made and to be split up from the NCAA tournaments and so on and so forth. And I think that's one conversation we always harp on. And clearly, besides that, we talk about the journey, the good and bad times, and what we learned to come up and get us to where we're at today in the NBA.
Oh yeah, I mean, the NIL thing is crazy because all that money is not coming from the schools. Still, there's still
No,
a lot of money coming into the schools. They're just giving players like a tiny small piece of the pie.
you want to know where it comes from? So the NIL board. So I was fortunate enough to help start the old foundation here at the Ohio State. So we're raising money and trying to find money. I'm donating six figures each year to make sure I'm paying, help take care of our players and the students at the alma mater, and just trying to help pay it forward. But once again, I'm glad we're able to help in that way. But there's a big piece of the pie that can continue to be chomped on, and rightfully so. It's a train that keeps going. So we have to keep that conversation alive as well.
I mean, as someone who's an NIL booster, right? You said at Ohio State.
The Ohio
Uh,
State, yeah.
yes, at Ohio State.
Yeah.
As someone who's a donor, who's a booster there, right? Do you still get people who think that the players should not be receiving NIL money, who think that this money should be going towards coaches, should be going towards buildings, towards whatever?
No, I don't think I haven't heard anything because you got to think we're in Big Ten country. The Buckeye Nation is crazy, so they like cheering for their teams. They like supporting their team, and I think one thing that occurs is our coaches are pretty vocal about what it takes to try to make champions and contenders. And I think one thing that has occurred with NIL is it's opened up a unique way of marketing and open up the flood panels for local businesses and the players to start building connections and building relationships and building their network long before they ever touch NBA money and that type of situation. So I think that innovation is everything.
Would you have stayed in college longer if NIL was around back
Absolutely.
then?
Absolutely. If they would have found my last year, I believe we could have won the championship. Jared Sullinger was coming in. I just finished Player of the Year. If they would have found like $8 or $9 million, I would have stayed. Now, I mean, it's funny, but
That's
like
your
that's what I
number.
would have
That's your
did.
number.
Yeah,
Eight.
if they would have found $10 million, I would have stayed my ass in college one more year. that's what you basically essentially are doing is trying to, take care of the athlete, which is, basically when I was 19, I felt like I was a pro. You have guys overseas that have been playing professional ball since they were 15. So, I'm blessed and grateful for everything that the Ohio State was, provided for me and it allowed me to do. But, once again, as a businessman and getting older, you would definitely have to take that into consideration. Stay 1 year, build your legacy.
I'm just happy that you have a number. You're like 8 million is what you got to
Eight,
hit, and I stand
eight,
there.
$8 million. Exactly. That's what I walked
5
in
million,
thinking.
goodbye Columbus.
Goodbye. 6 million, ill. How can I feed my family? You know what I mean?
Oh man, Spree's doing well. I think he's still
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like, how has it been trying to build? Like, you've got now not just a podcast, right? You've got a podcasting business.
Yeah.
Like, how do you go about building that thing and making sure that you've got an entire infrastructure in place for this?
Man, it's the people, to be honest with you. The number one thing is the people. I will say that. I think the people, we have a couple of great when I first started, obviously you get this energy of like an athlete trying to start a business. Yeah, okay. Do a test run and hit me. And I got a lot of that. So I remember making sure I was like, I just got to make sure I have people that believe in the bigger picture. So I was fortunate enough to come across people like Kelsey Hawkins, my buddy Amir, and a lot of other great staff members that were able to jump on. But we were able just to take it bit by bit and be like, hey, nobody knows we're coming. We're able to build it, but I'm gonna tap into my relationships and my resources. And this is one of the times where it's like being respectful and being a decent dude paid off, because when I reached out to people, luckily they responded back. They always had somewhat of a decent amount of respect or mutual respect for me to be able to trust and believe and jump on this train and what we were going to build. And I think that was the biggest thing, and making sure we found the right type of people that trust enough to be patient and to give their time. And I thought that was the hardest part. And then from there, just following up and making sure, dealing with the right people that said that they were going to do what they wanted to do. As you very well may know, sometimes you might find the wrong producers or find the wrong graphic people, or people that take advantage of a budget or take advantage of who they know or what, the consultation situation. And that was really it. But we keep climbing these mountains in order to continue to learn and continue to open more doors and start more careers of former athletes. And I think in a short, year or so, we've seen a lot of benefits and rewards, and we're going to keep doing so moving forward.
Were you out there raising money for it? Were you out there trying to sell equity? And
Oh,
like, was that what you heard?
so literally, I was out there like on the show, like getting my team on Riverside, writing down the running script of the show, meeting, you know what I mean, leaving weddings and then going to go sit in the car and trying to produce from the car via Riverside, going to tech events and going to go meet up with people and trying to get mentors and trying to go get investors, doing pickup runs with tech investors. I hadn't hooped in forever.
No.
I'm hooping in Travis Scott ones just to try to make connections and shit. And it's like, so when you tell, was I hands on? I'm talking about every phone call, everything in that situation where I heard all the yeses and all the nos, and a lot where it made me, kind of lick my wounds and come back and be like, yo, this is familiar territory where I started out with basketball and being like, hey, when I told people I wanted to make it to the NBA or even be a Division I talent, people laughed. And it was just like, all right, we can't talk about it. We got to put on our gloves and go to the drawing board and get to work. So literally, I've been fortunate enough to be there from the start and to continue to build my team as well, and get every bit of experience from a founder CEO perspective, and it's been fun and tough but fun.
No, I was gonna say, like, you make it to the NBA, right? You had a long career, I think a 10-year career. Like, that's kind of a destination event professionally. And now that you have to almost restart from the beginning, I don't know, is that frustrating that you have to like build yourself back up and prove yourself up in another field now?
Uh, I think it's super. I thought it was frustrating at first, but I think just in the moral compass of life, like anything worth having is worth working for. And I think there's a lot of people that want to do it, but I think this is what the calling card is showing up each day and building and showing how serious you are. I think one thing that occurred was even with potential investors was being like, have you done this before? How serious are you? Like, who else is invested? And like, I think they really appreciate it, once we start going in as being like, yo, I put my own money behind this and my own belief behind this and showing what I was able to present. So I thought it was tough, but in those 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 unsure moments is where you learn a lot about yourself. My favorite quote is like saying legends are born from vulnerable men, and you learn a lot about life from sports. And I just took a lot of stuff that I learned on the court and in the locker room and just put it towards here and just trying to grind it out. And I think one thing I've learned the most is it's not so much the physicality that you need, but the finesse.
How many annoying tech dudes did you meet with that just want to play you and thought they actually had a chance to beat you in
I mean,
basketball?
to be honest with you, I wouldn't even call them annoying, bro, because those dudes are actually cool as hell. you
Yeah.
know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
All right.
They're cool as hell, and to be honest with you, once you get past like the little stuff of being like, yo, who is this? Or how was this? Or how was that? You realize there was a lot of relatability. And these dudes in their own world was like, shoot, they were 6'7", they'd probably be like LeBron. And they would tell you that too. They're like, look, bro, I might not be the best basketball player, but what I do is LeBron. I'm LeBron in my era. And as an athlete that likes to talk trash and let his thing hang a little bit, I rock with it. And I think when it comes down to that, you learn a lot, and to sit with people that are way smarter than you definitely helps as well. So I've been super appreciative of even just getting through these doors, and even just letting people hear my spiel and give me feedback and being like, yo, we'll check in. And when I'm able to call back and do check-ins or picking up and tracking our progress.
So how big do you want to take this thing aside from having to add like 10 new podcasts now for Big Ten expansion?
No, I want this to be a whole, media platform. So I want to take this from, not just being, in an audio, visual version of it. I want to make sure that we're able to, do live podcasts. We're able to hit the streets and, touch our fans, being regional niche. I want to take it to the point where we're able to do merch, continue to, push out, continue to do stuff where we're able to, push out media, push out, writing, have blogs and all those type of things. And almost to the point where we're able to stretch and start doing, little features on each school based on what the hosts want to do. I think one topic that occurred that the fellows from the University of Minnesota wanted to do was a big what if. And I'm sure you could probably do it at Rutgers. Like, what if every top player from Minnesota actually went to the University of Minnesota and how that would look? Continue to give athletes a voice to tell their own, go deeper into their own experiences. And, we went from, just in 10 months to being, recording from our living rooms to being able to get access now to where we'll be on the field and be in those media day press boxes and to be able to use our network to be able to set up and get the inside scoop from former athletes or the current athletes and, have some pretty high interviews. And I think that's where I'll go. I'll be the database to really, hear the athlete's perspective first and get the real.
Do you wish you could have done this while you were in the league?
Yeah, most definitely think so. I think it would have been. I wish I would have listened to more people when they're like, "Yo, you need to do a pod. You need to get people on the pod and continue to push the athlete's voice." But at the same time, it was way different. We were all that shut up and dribble just became blasphemous literally 6 years ago. You understand what I'm saying? I think we all kind of followed suit in that sense. But I think one thing that occurs when you see guys like Derek Jeter, or even if you see, Channing Frye or Richard Jefferson when they did the road tripping pod, I think when these people kick these type of doors down, it allows us to, continue to walk behind and, feed the people that are intrigued.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm surprised now just how many people that are currently playing now have their own platforms, have their own podcasts while they're out there still, playing games every other night.
Yeah, no, it is pretty crazy. I think it's unique. I think Draymond does a great job at it. I think one thing that athletes kind of underestimate because they're so weary of how it's going to be perceived. I think the more you speak, the more you dive into it, the more, part of culture and more natural it becomes. So I just hope that guys continue to do so and keep focusing on it.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm curious to see how this all goes in the next few years. As you said, there's new media growing, right? Old media, we're still here. We'll still around
Yeah.
too.
Well, what do you think? Yeah, but what do you think about it? Because I mean, Mike, you do obviously forgive me. You do a great job at what
Eh.
you do, and like I mean, but you have integrity to your stuff. There's no reason why you want to keep elevating if you sucked, quote unquote. You understand? You understand what I'm saying? Like, quote, if you sucked, you want to be where you're at and keep getting better and better and better. So like a lot of times I would feel away when it's just like, hey, why do they keep coming at us or acting like we're doing a terrible job or like need more or whatever? And how do you feel about the wave of the new media?
I like it. I like it. I think it's great because the more places where I can hear, like just talking about the NBA specifically, because where I'm covering
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah,
Just the more places that I can hear from NBA players about what they actually think. Because I understand why you guys are guarded with the media sometimes. I get it. The better. I think, and it, like, especially like take Draymond, for example, when he starts talking real basketball and starts talking about the X's and O's and explaining how defenses work or how whatever
yeah,
works, I love that stuff. Like, give
yeah,
me more of it. Helps me understand the game better, do my job better.
yeah.
And so I'm not
That's
going to
real.
complain um, when there's people out there just like doing great stuff, doing great work. My only real thing is like the competitive side is like, damn, I wish he'd tell me that stuff too. You know, when you talk to players, like it's building a bridge. You know, like
Yeah, yeah,
Nate
yeah,
Jones on Twitter had a great thread the other day about the need for players to still talk to media, even outside of official team content and just tweets and Instagram and stuff. There's still storytelling that's involved
yeah,
that's beneficial for both sides. And my
yeah,
concern is that that might get lost down the road as it does become easier to just replace talking to reporters with the team social media person, the team videographer, the NBA
yeah,
content guy, or just whatever you want to tweet out there. I think there's still a good point to be had there and is beneficial for players to talk to media and get their story out through someone who is independent and
yeah.
sees you in a way you might not see yourself, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
I dig you. No, that's absolutely true. I think one thing when we speak about you, it's not like the first five that get through the door that are legit. Now they just give anybody a microphone and credentials. Like, do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
I
sometimes
get that.
it comes down to, and it's like, yo, it's not on us. Like the same way we might be like, yo, keep this BS out the game. It's like for journalists, it's like you guys might have to start doing gatekeeping, and not to the
Yeah.
extent where what was it, the Kevin Durant interview where one told the other guy he's gonna knock him the fuck out, but like.
I don't know if I remember
Do
that
you
one.
remember during the finals they were arguing over trying to get the question?
Oh.
Yeah. Not along those lines, but when you start to break it down, it's like, no, you guys, the same way you're saying, like, no, I wish Draymond would tell me this. It's like, no, he has the space to do so, but I think sometimes with athletes, the comfortability to do so, or even the time to do so, isn't always there.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. And
Yeah,
like to
yeah,
me, the concept of gatekeeping gets me uncomfortable sometimes just because like I don't want to keep people out if they're trying to do the job and they're trying to do it well and they're serious about it. But as you said, not everyone who's trying to get into a locker room, that's trying to get into a press conference, is doing it because they want to do the job well and be serious about it. And it's
yeah,
like it becomes
yeah.
a slippery slope, however.
Yeah, but at the same time, you'll be shocked. I think like we're all relatable individuals. And when you keep a standard up, it's pretty easy. But the same way, if my teammate caught me BSing on sprints and being like,
Mm-hmm.
"Come on, bro, we doing something bigger," shit, maybe you might be like, "Hey, bro, that bullshit you wrote last week was garbage, dog. Like, are you an idiot? Like, you know what I mean? Or like, not even just are you an
Listen,
idiot?
I covered the Knicks for a few years. It happened from time to time. Words were said. Don't get me wrong.
Oh wait, I forgot you're on the East Coast. I'm speaking with a Midwest mindset, so the rules vary. Let's just say that everything I'm speaking of is pretty calm and mild mannered.
That Midwest nice.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Midwest, that's an understatement too.
yeah. Listen, but it is going to be interesting to see where all this stuff is going, and everyone keeps evolving. And the other thing is like there's just people who keep doing their job and are
Yeah,
great at it no matter what, right? Like we have a ton of those people at the Athletic who are just good and just
yeah.
keep doing their job despite all this stuff. Anyway,
No, that's real. Athletics definitely a classy sight. So good for you, bro. No, for real, it is. I mean,
I'm gonna
people
put
say
that on. We're gonna see. I'm gonna see if I can put that on a tag somewhere that we're a classy site.
like,
That's what I want.
classy
That's
sight
a good tag.
from Evan Turner. Like, who the fuck is Evan Turner?
Hey, listen. Evan Turner is the co-host of the Point Forward podcast. You're the founder of the Beyond the Big Ten podcast series. You're on Twitter. What do you got? Like 500,000 followers more? Am I
Nah,
undercutting
bro.
you?
I got wait, you overselling me. Let's just go with 500. But
Okay.
I'm 40% of that. And if I was 40% from the three in the league, I'd still be in that mark.
If you're hitting 40% from three, you can play till you're 40. It's fine.
Who are you to I was just talking to Dane and we were talking and I was like, bro, like you do all this with the ball in your hands, pause, and people don't even realize how great of a shooter you are. Like imagine like
Yeah.
you could play till you're 40 because you won't miss a spot up. So imagine if you're just a third fiddle, you can
Yeah.
legit play and not sweat. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, maybe if he had like kind of a versatile passing, playmaking center around him, and then maybe kind of a wing who can create for him, and it was in
Yeah,
like a South Florida location, we could see that.
yeah, we maybe. I think that might work out. Well, you gotta talk to people. I think it's more than just wishes. I think it's the numbers.
Yeah. That's a topic for another podcast. Evan, I appreciate you doing this, man. Good luck with all the podcasting and the business endeavors. We're obviously going to be listening, following you on Twitter, as I said. Everyone, thank you for listening to this episode of the Athletic NBA Show. Andrew Schlecht, I didn't give you a shout out. Thank you for producing this thing. You do a great job. Everyone will catch you guys next time.